Hello, everyone, and good morning and good afternoon, wherever you are. So I think I'm audible enough for everyone to hear.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Thank you so much. Please let me introduce myself. I'm Saify. I'm from Bangladesh ARK Foundation. So I have been working with one Chorus Innovation Fund Round 2 project as a PVA specialist. And so we think to share our experience with all of our fellow researchers across different Chorus partners, what we have learned so far and how exactly PV works. I see somewhere that Dr. Nicola Jones joined. So she is also our mentor for this project from University of Leeds. And I think that today's session will be really fantastic for everyone. I'm sharing the slides now. I think my slides is visible, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
we can see them. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So today, yeah, we will talk about most about the participatory video, how participatory video works, and what are the guiding principles for participatory video, why you should use participatory video in your next research project. And we will, of course, share some reflections from the drug seller and AMI study in urban Bangladesh, which is funded by the Chorus Innovation Fund Round 2 project. And we'll, of course, take some questions and try our best to answer to your questions, or would be very much happy to participate in any discussions. So before we move towards what participatory video is, let's just talk about for whom participatory video as a research approach might be useful to discuss and to utilize and to analyze. First of all, if you are such a researcher who is very much interested and has vested interests in communities and would like to explore what the communities think, how the communities act, and how the communities would like to find solutions to some problems that's matter to them, that's very dear to them, then we think that PV might be a very useful tool for you to hearing the voices of unheard. Oftentimes we talk about participatory research, implementation science research, but in some way, what we usually do, we involve those community members into co-design phase, into co-creation phase, but and we talk about how they can participate in a cohesive, co-creation way. Then again, there isn't any final product or which is generated through that participatory approach. Sometimes what the participants would like to talk about, would like to discuss, that's often left unheard. So that's why if you want to document the participants, the community's voices, PV can be a very good and might be a very useful tool for you. And PV as a tool and the outputs from the PV participatory video, which we often call as PV films, can be a very good starting points for prompting dialogues and building trust and bridging the community members and the policymakers. So that's if you are into these things, we think that PV would be really, really useful for you, and we hope that you will enjoy today's session. Before we move towards what participatory video is, let's discuss about what participatory research method is and what they discuss about. So basically, participatory research method is an umbrella term for approaches that transfer decision-making power from researchers to the community participants. And in most of the participatory research method, community members plan, they collect, and sometimes they interpret the data rather than serving only subjects. And it brings the perspective of the groups often labeled as voiceless or powerless directly into the study. And therefore, the participants can analyze their own findings, they can shape the conclusions of the research, and through this process, it's possible to mirror their lived realities um, through the participatory research method. So we think that communities can co-design solutions and can create concrete actions to address the problems they identify through the participatory research method. We know that in number of course studies, we are working with different participatory research method to generate and co-generate solutions with the community members and with the stakeholders who are very much involved with the overall research project and overall solution generating process. But in contrast, the art-based research method, they often uses diverse art forms such as theater, visual arts, literature, film, and general creative thinking techniques to enable or to give a push to the participatory research method. And the often adapted research method that they usually get is the listen first style of community engagement. So in arts-based research method, we would like to listen first what the community talks about. We would like to learn about their behavior. Then we can engage the community in generating the solutions. And this approach is very mostly inspired by Auguste Boal and some other activists who view the arts as a safe arena for oppressed groups to speak truth and to give them power. And therefore, it helps the communities to unpack issues important to them. They can co-design these strategies, and sometimes they can expand the collective knowledge base. If you can give the power to the community people can particularly mirror their lived experiences and their lived realities through the research method. And it's possible if you can combine the arts research method, art-based research method, and participatory research method. And it enables the participant to have confidence, mutual respect towards each other, and they can listen actively to and to create. They can also, it enables them to creative thinking, strengthen equitable partnerships between the participants and the facilitators. And it also led them to prioritize their enjoyment throughout the whole co-generating solutions, co-designing solutions. It's a fun process to them, and they can be very open, and they don't feel like it's some rigid structure they are into to generate solutions. They are sitting in a round table, they are engaging in discussions to create some sort of solutions to a problem that the researcher has found and presented to them. Rather, they find the problems by themselves. They talk about the problems. They can be very open through this art-based research method to create a comfortable space where they can feel encouraged to speak, to listen, and then to experiment. And if you combine this participatory research method and art-based research method, then here comes the PV. And as Charlie White said, that it's a powerful force for people to see themselves in relation to the community and become consensitized about personal communities. So if we would like to put the participatory video in a very simpler term, it's a process where people, the individuals from any particular group, from the community, or any particular interest group that you have in your mind, they can enjoy the openness, the creativity among themselves, and it has this unique potential to bring the personal, social, political, and sometimes the cultural changes through the lenses, the camera lenses. So it's just a very powerful tool, and in some of our work, we have used this tool, and we will of course share that with everyone today. So we can talk about a bit how the participatory video process works, and where how we facilitate each components in different stages of the participatory video. So also start with planning, and this planning process is very much linked to the community. So when we start our project in Bangladesh, what we first did is that we mapped the local stakeholders and the community members of our interest. And then we meet with them to sensitize them to the project. We meet with them several times. We sensitize them, we discuss with them what we would like to do, how that's going to be beneficial for them, and if that's something which they can be very much interested in to participate. And then we seek approvals, take consents, and then we collaboratively define goals on how we best can do this overall process. But to map these local stakeholders or the community members that you have in your mind, you often need the gatekeepers, because say, for example, in our case, we have the drug sellers in our mind, and we would like them to participate in our participatory video process. So therefore, what we need is that someone who can connect the researchers and the drug sellers, and create a bridge between us. So there comes the gatekeepers, and these gatekeepers play a very important role in recruiting the participants. And the gatekeepers can be a very important role in times where you have to recruit the community participants, completely layman community participants who can be from diverse background. But as we have focused on a particular group, for instance, the drug sellers, we include one or two drug sellers as the gatekeepers, and then we requested them to connect us with the other drug sellers for this, to encourage them to participate in our overall participatory video process. And then comes the site selection. So when we go through each component of the participatory video process, you will see that participatory video process is we need time to conduct the participatory video. So therefore, you have to have a very specific study site in your mind, where you can take guidance from the local organizations, the stakeholders, and the gatekeepers to implement the participatory video process. And when you did all of these three steps, you can then start recruiting the participants, and you can work with the local gatekeepers depending on your requirements. But we suggest that you should not recruit more than 10 participants into your participatory video process. I know that some of you might think that 10 participants is a very small number, but if you would like to engage the people in a more creative way, in a participatory way, this small number of participants or this group might be the best for you to facilitate the participatory video process. And when you think about the participants, what the factors that you can also consider is that their literacy level. So if you think about the common layman community members, then you can bring different participants from different literacy levels, and you can also think about the power dynamics between the participants and the gatekeepers. If you would like to include both male and female participants, you need to think that the power dynamics between the male and female participants, depending on the urban or rural settings, might be different. So therefore, you also need to think about that. And the best way to utilize our resources is to think about what resources are exactly available locally. So when you plan ahead for your preview process, you first need to list down the resources that you require and what resources are available locally. In some of our previous experience, when we conduct the PV process in a rural area, in a rural or a remote area, we found that those areas lack number of resources. So we had to adapt with the local resources, and we had to utilize the local resources to implement our PV process. And the important of them all is to take the consents before you begin your participatory video process with your community participants. Because as the name suggests, the participatory video process involves showing the people's face, their thinking, their discussion through videos and sometimes through photos. And we also try to publish those photos and videos through different medias and medium. So it's very important for you to clearly explain how these overall process work, how we are going to use the videos and photos that we are taking, and whether they agree with these. And if those photos and videos and other materials should be used, and if they want to withdraw, what's the withdrawal process? And you should clearly mention them all into your information sheet and the consent paper. Once you did all the stages in your planning process, then you can move towards the pre-testing. And we found that pre-testing of participatory video process in any given settings is very important, because it then gives you the sense of to contextualize the participatory video materials, the components of participatory video into your own context. Participatory video, as to best of our knowledge, was first utilized to tackle antimicrobial resistance in Nepal first, and then we have piloted the participatory video process later in Bangladesh to tackle antimicrobial resistance. But at some extent, the context of Nepal and context of Bangladesh is very different, and their culture is also different to us. So we need the pre-testing to understand what our participants think, how our participants accept the different components and activities of the overall PV process. And then we have decided and contextualize all the materials to our own context, which can be more acceptable to the community members of our interest. So it's very much important for you to pre-test the participatory video process in a neutral area where your study site, which isn't your study site, and that would give you the sense of conducting the participatory video process when in real time. And let's move towards the participatory workshop. But to give some key ideas of what we have discussed so far, is that the participatory video process can be a very good tool for you to explore the community's thoughts, their perception on any given topic, and their behavior. So if you would like to work with such a community, you can consider participatory video as one of your important research tools. And before moving towards actual implementation, you should do the planning and the pre-testing. And through the learning received from those two stages of planning and pre-testing, you can then move towards implementing the workshop. So usually, a one PV workshop span across 5 days. So you need full 5 days to engage your communities through the PV process workshop. Because in those 5 days, from morning to the afternoon, the participants will be with you. They will learn about the topic of your interest. For us, it was antimicrobial resistance. They will learn about filming. They will learn about different filming equipment. So therefore, you first need to decide and to discuss with your community participant that this overall process will take this much time. And if they are willing to give their time to this process, then they should include themselves in the overall process. Because in some of our previous experience, what we have learned that if the participants are not properly sensitized they often tend to drop out in middle of the overall process, and that might hamper your planning and the overall workshop process. So it's very important for the researchers to sensitize the community members or the participants before the workshop actually began. But even if they drop out in middle of your workshop, in middle of the overall process, it's okay, because you can go ahead with the remaining participants. But it's very much important for you to give the idea of how the overall process works. So if we discuss and talk about how the first day of the PV workshop work. So in the first day, we introduced the project of our interest. So for us, it was the AMR project, and it was involved with the drug sellers. And then we introduced different filming equipments, and they shoot some personal professional looking footages. As you can see in this picture, uh, two person is sitting and one person is filming another. So it's part of the process where the person, especially the community members, they started to feel comfortable around different filming equipments, because these community members, they often don't know about these filming equipments. They never hold any camera other than their mobile phone. They never hold any microphone or other tripod or other filming equipments. So, and we also found some people who don't even have much knowledge on videography or video taking. So therefore, it was very important for the researcher or the facilitator of the workshop to make them feel comfortable around the filming equipment first. So what we usually did is that we gave them the cameras and other filming equipments, and we instructed them to play around with those equipment. So say, for example, some of our facilitators showed how a tripod works, how to set up a camera on a tripod, how to fold and unfold the tripod, how to open a camera, how to operate a camera, and how to record voices through microphone. And then we request our community participants to do the same by their own. And we stand beside them to help them so that they feel comfortable. And until they are feeling comfortable with the filming equipment, we continue with this overall process. And then we told them to, shoot some footages with their mobile phone and with the filming equipment that we have provided to them. And that's how the first day of the workshop ends. And then in the second day, it's a very packed day, and it involves 5 activities. And this day is more about unpacking the issues of your interest. So we were interested about the antimicrobial resistance. So therefore, we have discussed more about antimicrobial resistance through a number of the activities that we have. So if I talk about the first activity, where do I stand? So it's a fun activity where we asked some questions with multiple answers, and we request the participants to give us the answers, but they don't have to tell us the answers by the option number. Rather, what they should do is that they should go to defined corners. So we define corner for each of the option inside a multiple option question, and we tell them to please go to that particular corner and then say, what do you think about that question? And there comes this activity, second activity, where we request the participant to tell a story. So we start the story. Say, for example, one of my family members is sick, and so we take her to a doctor, and we stop the sentence there. And then we request another participant to continue the story from where I have stopped. So that's why it's like a continuous storytelling process. And through this storytelling process, the participants started to feel comfortable to discuss the story that they might have in their own mind. So this overall process is more like to explore the inner thoughts of the participants and their inner lived experience that otherwise they might not know or might not say to other people. So through these activities, the uh, aim of conducting this activity is to make them feeling comfortable telling this story. And of course, in a story, there should have some characters, some stakeholders. So we requested the participants then to discuss and identify the characters or the stakeholders that they just discussed into the story that they have told in the activity two. And as you can see in the picture here, that one facilitator is discussing with the participants about the stakeholders that they have identified from their story. And the facilitator is listing all the stakeholders that came across in the story. And once we concluded with the stakeholder identification, we requested the participants to take a hot seat. So we have designated a seat into the workshop area where we requested the participants to act as a stakeholder from the list, and the other participants of the workshop will ask questions to that participant. So if I talk about myself, if I assume the role of stakeholders such as the doctor, the other participant will start asking me question as a doctor. So it also gives them the idea and sense of becoming an actor and to assume a role which they are not in their own life. And after that, we started doing reviewing and reflection from the footages that they have taken in the first day. So all of the footages that they have taken in the first day were discussed in the second day, so that the participants can start learning about taking videos, where they have done good, which are the areas where they can improve, and what should they do and what should they don't. So we have allocated some time in each day so that they can learn more about the videography. That's how the second day ends. And if we move towards the workshop day number 3, it's more about learning of the interview techniques. So there are a number of interview techniques, and to record those interviews, and then they can learn about the general drugs or the general issues if you have some other topics in your mind. And in their activity, we introduced what sort of drugs or antibiotics that they have, what is antimicrobial resistance is, and how that works. And then we move towards to tell them how to shoot B-roll. So for those of you who don't know what B-roll is like taking videos of any landscape and which can tell the background story of any particular films. And then there are 5 short sequences which can be used to take interview footages. And we started giving ideas to the workshop participants. The facilitator started giving ideas on these different techniques to the facilitator, the workshop participants. And then the facilitator requested the participants to shoot some footages using the techniques that they have learned right now. And after that, once again, we started reflecting and discussing the interview footages that they have taken in the second day as well. So if you can see the continuum, that the participants will have to take some footages in each day at the end of their workshop sessions, and those interview footages will be used to reflect and to improve in each day once at the end of the other activities. That's how the third day finished, and then after that, in the fourth day, we started mind mapping. So the mind mapping is number of stakeholders or the participants as number of thoughts about different stakeholders. Say, for example, you remember that in the second day, we have listed down some stakeholders that the participants identified. We requested our participants to discuss about those stakeholders that they have identified. We wanted to know what those stakeholders would do in their own contexts. Say, for example, how does a doctor act or react in their contexts? How does a doctor work? How does a drug seller work? And other people work? And then we requested the participants to record them into a flip chart so that from their own thoughts, we can have a definition of each of the stakeholders' work or each of the stakeholders' roles from the local context. After we have concluded this participatory activity, we move towards some reflection. You can put one of your own project ideas here. So as we are interested in antimicrobial resistance, we thought that it's a very good place for us to discuss the WHO guidance on antimicrobial resistance. And we talked with the workshop participants what WHO recommends for antimicrobial resistance, what's the best activities to do to tackle antimicrobial resistance in the society and in the community. And through this process, the participants can be able to learn what are the best practices and what they should do and what they shouldn't. And then again, we move towards reviewing the footages from the day before, and we started working on the reflection and the discussions that they might have on their interview footages. And we then move towards the final day of the workshop, and this day is completely dedicated to document the story that they have in their mind. So if you look at the previous 4 days, we started with nothing. So we pitched our project ideas to them, what this project is going to do, and what we would like from them throughout the 5 days of workshop, and what we want them to do. And then they started learning about different filming techniques, different filming equipment, and they started learning about to tell that story through different participatory activities. Then then the final round of jotting down these stories come. So we take a session on how to tell the story that the participants might have in their own mind, and how they can prepare a script. And then the participants have been divided into different groups, usually a pair. And then we request them to write their story in their notebook, and then they can start working with different characters, with different short techniques that they want to see in their scripts. And after that, we move towards taking some more interview footages if it's necessary, and if not, then we spend the whole day finalizing the scripts, because as the participants are not much familiar with the script writing, or sometimes writing down a story or jotting down different components of a story into a single piece of paper. So it's very important for the facilitators to spend time with the participants so that they can polish their story and that can be ready to film shooting. Once we concluded with our workshops activities, we then move towards shooting the film. So before you shoot the film, it's important for the facilitator or the researchers to consider the convenience of the participants, because the participants just had very large long engagement with you for a week, and then you should consider the other activities of the participants. So therefore, it's very important to take time commitment for the participants, and you should film the footages with the participants when that is convenient to them. So the core of the PV is to hand over the power to the participants. So the facilitators should take the role in behind and should move the participants forward so that they can assume the role of the director, they can assume the role of the videographer, they can assume the role of the storyteller. And it's not necessary that the participant has to act in their own videos or in their own films. Rather, they can request their friends, their family members, or other community members to act in their own videos and films, and then they can assume the role of the director and the videographer behind the scene. And you should also be present at the scene so that if the participants are struggling with the camera process, the shooting process, or camera functions, then you can help them. And you should always prioritize what the participants want. And sometimes what we have also learned is very natural for the participants to feel overwhelmed. Sometimes they are discussing with the researchers behind the cameras very fluently, but whenever the other participants open the camera and tell them to talk in front of the camera, they completely freeze. So it's very important for the facilitators to assure them and encourage them that this is a process which can be fun to them, and if they are not comfortable with it, they can withdraw themselves with the process. So once they complete the shooting of the films or the raw footages from the films, the participants and the facilitator or the researchers, they should review the footages together, and the facilitators and the researchers, they must ensure that the participants are very comfortable with the footages that they have taken, or if they would like to retake those footages again. And at the end of the shooting process, when all the raw footages are in hand and the participants are very um, comfortable with the footages that they have taken, the researchers and the facilitators can assign a video editor, and the video editor can assist the participant with the final edit and the cuts. But the participant should review all the edits and cuts and give the final approval. Because the key thing here to remember is that the product that has been producing, the ownership lies with the community members and the participants, and the role of the researchers and the facilitators is to only guide them to tell their story through the camera lens. So it's very important that the participants are comfortable with the film title, soundtrack, and the credits. So that's how the overall different components of the workshop and the shooting works. And when the film is ready, and when the participants think that they can showcase their films to a wider audience, depending on the participants' availability and their commitment and taste, they can first hold the community screening for their own community members, their friends and family members, and the local leaders. So it's not very important that you should take their films or the output that have been generated and to a national level at first stage, because through that the participants might feel overwhelmed. So it's always better to hold the community screening first in an enclosed community where they are very much comfortable. And if they are very happy with the films, then you can go ahead with the targeted dissemination later. And these films during the showcasing event can be used as a conversation starter. In one of our previous project, we have find that when the video or participatory video has finished, the invited guests at the showcasing event started talking about different issues shown in the video, and they express whether they like it or agree with the issues that have showcased in the video by the participants. And later on, with the researchers' help, these films can be uploaded to YouTube to reach a broader audience. If we talk about the golden rules of PV, it's always important to be humble and respectful towards your audience, and you always remember that um, the participants, they came first, and then the facilitators. So it's very important to handing over the control to them. So sometimes you might fear that if we give them the camera, they might, damage the cameras or the filming equipment. But then you should not. You should, of course, guide them how to use the camera equipment, but you shouldn't make them feel that they shouldn't be comfortable around the filming equipment or taking footages. So it's very important for you to handing over the control to the participants so that the participant can feel comfortable to tell their story through this overall process. And be aware of the power dynamics between the facilitator and the group. Sometimes some workshops become more facilitator centric, where the participants are not responsive and facilitator are discussing the inside the overall workshop. It become a top-down approach. So you have to be aware about the power dynamics. You have to aware about different group members, because in your participant group, if there are senior members, if they're male and female, if there are different stages of education, the group members might feel uncomfortable towards each other, or they might feel less powered. So you have to challenge those power dynamics without destroying the group dynamics. And you must skin footage every day so that your participants can feel comfortable with the skin footages. And remember to honor the commitments the participants make, and don't overpromise from your end. So you have to be clear what the participants can and cannot expect from this project. And of course, if they want to be a film star through this participation, there might be, but it's less likely. So, and also at the end, you have to make sure that participants can have their footages, and if they want it, they can get copies of any films that they made. And at last, PV is a process. It's about the participants, as I said. It's not the facilitators, but the facilitators' knowledge and experience should be equally respected. So let's move towards what our project that we have conducted in Dhaka. It's called Drug Sellers and AMR. It's the short title, and it's funded by the Chorus Innovation Fund Round 2. The full title is Exploring the Potential of Drug Sellers in Shaping the Approach to Antimicrobial Resistance in Urban Health Settings, Bangladesh. ARK is leading this project, and Asiful Haidar Chaudhary is the principal investigator of this project. And we are conducting this study in Mirpur. Mirpur is a very urbanized area, and in terms of socioeconomic status, different classes of people are residing inside Mirpur. However, mostly low to middle income class people are residing in Mirpur area. So what we want to gather from our project by using the participatory video approach, we want to work with the drug sellers so that we can understand their position within the urban health system and the challenges they face every day around antibiotic dispensing and tackling AMR. And also we can find the opportunities so that we can strengthen both their practice and the wider urban health system. In total, 9 community drug sellers participated in our PV process, and it's an ongoing process. And we have completed the workshop, we have completed the filming, but the editing of the footages are in process, and we are in regular contact with our participants so that participants can see the editing that we are doing on behalf of them, and we are always get consultation from their side, because editing the video sometimes requires some expertise, and it's logistically not possible to learn the community members, to teach the community members about video editing. So the video editing support usually gives from the project in consultation with the participants. What we have learned so far, the key thing that we want to learn is that why do they do what they do? So I think across all the partner countries that the chorus have, the common problem is that the drug sellers, they often dispense antibiotics with a registered doctor's prescription. And we always blame the drug sellers. Why do they dispense the antibiotics without doctor's prescription? Why do they buy their own suggest antibiotics whenever a person can come to their shop? But there are some reasons behind their own thinking, behind their practices. And we would like to unpack those issues through our PV. And what we have found so far is that peer pressure is a very key issue, which is generated by the neighboring or other nearby drug sellers. And they say to us that if they don't sell a particular antibiotics from the shop, the other drug sellers will do that, and that might, give the patient or the buyer a negative sense about this particular drug shop, that this drug shop is not selling antibiotics to me, but another drug shop is selling antibiotics, so that in next time I should go to that drug shop instead of this one. So it's a circle, it's a cycle, and therefore sometimes the drug sellers are forced to sell the antibiotics without the doctor's prescription. Of course, there are some sort of financial incentive, because they think that if I don't sell it, others will do, and I will do some profit. So therefore, they sell the antibiotics without the doctor's prescription. Many drug sellers, we have found that they don't know that they should not dispense antibiotics without doctor's prescription, and sometimes they don't know which antibiotics is necessary for which sort of bacterial infection. So they also have lack of knowledge, and sometimes the pharmaceutical companies create pressure to them so that they can buy more antibiotics from the pharmaceutical companies. So we talk about the process, and I think the time is nearly at end. I will try to end my presentation within 2 minutes. So in terms of monitoring and evaluation, we can use observation notes. We have an observation notes in our hand, and all the workshop activities are audio and video recorded. And during the showcasing, we also record the discussion among the participants. And after the showcasing, after all the process of the PV finished, we can conduct an FGD with the workshop participants on their experience. And we can use the Jones framework by Nicola Jones, which is published in 2024, to unpack the learnings, to analyze the data that you have gathered so far. And Jones framework talks about knowledge, attitude, practice of the participants, their person-centered advocacy, their capacity for action, and the fidelity. So why you should use PV? You should use PV if you want to empower your communities and to resonate with the wider audience. And if you want to document the issues that are important to the communities or to the interest group that you have in your mind, it can act as a prompt to start dialogue between diverse stakeholders, and you can engage the policymakers and the decision makers with the community in a more meaningful way. And of course, through this participatory video approach and through the films that the participants will make, you can present a complex issue in a more compelling way. So the key takeaways from today's webinar might be that participatory video is a powerful process for empowerment, dialogue, and co-producing knowledge. It provides an unparalleled platform. This process can create local agents of change who advocate for the solutions with their communities. And the fields themselves are rich artifacts that if you analyze them, they can reveal complex and sometimes contradictory community perspectives. And at the end of my presentation, I would like to acknowledge Professor Paul Cook and Dr. Nicola Jones from University of Leeds, because many of the components that I have shown you are based on their work. I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to Asiful Haidar Chaudhry and all the community drug sellers of Mirpur who have participated in our PV workshop process. And there are some QR codes from our previous PV videos that we have made through one of our previous project called Community Solutions to Antimicrobial Resistance, COSTA. And there are 4 videos. And if you are interested, you can scan the QR code, and this QR code will take you to the YouTube, and you can visit the videos later. So that's all from my side today. And we would be very much like to hear your thoughts, though the time is limited. I would like to ask Polly to hold the question and answer session. But the questions that that I have in my mind is that if you want to use Privy in your next research, will you do it? And if you want to do it, how you would like to utilize it? So, yeah, thank you everyone for listening to me.
Brilliant. Thanks, Sophie. That was really, really insightful and a really sort of practical, useful webinar for everybody. I mean, we haven't got many minutes left, but does anyone have any questions for Sophie now?
Does not a question. I mean, I would like to add with thank you, Saify, for a brilliant presentation. As I would like to share my experience in very briefly, as I am involved in the PV development process of the porous drug seller MRS study. So it was, I mean, interesting learnings, starting from the mapping of the drug sellers, then conducting a knowledge attitude practice survey, and then move to the PV development process, choosing the interested drug sellers who can give their time in the PV development whole process. So, I think we are very much grateful to those drug sellers who have took part in the PV development training workshop, then the script writing, and then shooting. We have seen a lot of enthusiasm among the drug sellers. There are 2 groups of drug sellers. So, I mean, from the training, a relationship was built with them, with us, and then it was continued till to the taking the shooting for the development of the participatory video. And there are 2 groups, and then each groups there was a leader type person. So his or her instructions was followed the other drug sellers, as it was teamwork. The whole day they took part into shooting of 2 participatory videos. So it was an interesting experience, and and we are now the editing is ongoing. So I think if the one thing it is a time consuming process, but it is a very powerful tool. I mean, as Saifi mentioned, the main important thing is the participatory approach. I mean, the target group with whom we work in a research study, if as they participate in the whole participatory video development process, so when the PV is developed as a matter, it can be used as a material in a training package. I mean, the other persons from that target group people, they can accept it is very quickly, as they see that the persons from their peer group saying the voice, what they think in their mind, yeah, in terms of their daily professional life practice experience, and the challenges they face, how they overcome. So I think it is, I mean, it is a very interesting and powerful tool, and it is helpful, yeah, to find some solutions of the problems, public health problems in the persons in the community. So thank you all.
Okay. All right. Thanks, everyone. We'll share the slides and the recording. And if you do have any other further questions, then just please share via email. Okay. All right. Thank you. And thanks very much, Saify, for a really great presentation.
Thank you, Polly, and thank you, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.